My definition of automatic marketing. So it's marketing that comes across as being very sincere, okay? From every point of contact in your organization. It's not contrived. It's really natural. It's from the heart. And people automatically want to pass it on. They want to donate. They want to participate. They want to volunteer. So it's about a cultural shift rather than seeing marketing as something that we kind of stick on to our organizations. It's changing the function of marketing to be incorporated and integrated into everything we do rather than just one silo. So automatic marketing begins with each of us in the room, including myself, working with my organization. So it's about creating a culture and creating a community. Now, we toss around community a lot in our sector, all the time. You probably couldn't ever go to a lunch and learn without hearing the word community. But what I mean is that our organization becomes a community, meaning that even when we go to work, we feel like we're part of a family. How many people work for organizations that they feel like are family? It's awesome. Okay. So keep doing that. Keep doing more of that. So is it better than family, or? What's that? The fights are good? Okay. So, well, you can't have a community without fights, right? So, I'm home. I feel comfortable. I want to work somewhere where I feel comfortable, and I want marketing to reside where it's comfortable. Okay? I want people to come to my organization, whether it be through the website, or through the brochure, or through me interacting in person, or somebody seeing me out biking. I want people to know that they can feel at home with me, okay? So there's like a center with me, with my organization, with everybody. So, first good idea, which you have on your sheet. So encourage honesty and creativity. What I mean by that is it has to start with the organization from within. If your staff isn't honest about your marketing, or about the collateral, the communications, the website, if you haven't asked your staff, or if you're not asked yourself, what do you think about the website? Right? How often do we get asked as staff members what we think? And I'm making some assumptions because I work at a lot of nonprofits, and very rarely do I get asked. We always talk about asking other people, but we don't ask ourselves, right? So, and also trying to encourage creativity. I used to work in advertising, and man, talk about encouraging creativity. Every single person in the company, including the person who answered the phone, was invited to weekly brainstorming sessions where we sat and we had a lunch that was catered by the company. Now, this is advertising. They had a lot of money. But you can bring your own lunch, right? It's facilitated. And every week we had some topic that we're brainstorming. It was awesome. I mean, you just never felt like your voice wasn't heard. It was always heard. So these are some resources. The resources are different from the resources you have on the colored sheet. So first, invite internal feedback. Okay? These are really simple suggestions, and I don't mean to oversimplify how obvious they might be, but I don't think that we're doing it. And I know I've never worked in an organization where there was actually a suggestions box, except one, and it was mostly for interns, and you usually got bubblegum wrappers and other things stuck in it. But the idea is very simple, but creating an ideas at yourorg.ca or .org, okay? So creating a place for people to give perhaps anonymous feedback. So I try to do a little research every day. This is something that my manager that I work for now, for Bikes Without Borders and Sacred Rides, we're really encouraging this, and it's a great feeling to work for someone who encourages me to reach out to people every day. So every day I try to call somebody in just to talk for 5 minutes. It really doesn't take long. You know, I do it either before lunch or after lunch. It's kind of a part of my day. So also I cannot recommend this strongly enough, is to invest in a great database. If you have to start with Google sharing a spreadsheet, do that, but track everything. Track the number of calls, track the number of emails, track everything. You never know when you're going to need that data for a grant, for a plan, for a marketing plan, for a board meeting, for a retreat. Having those numbers really shows you the growth and the progress of your organization. So this is a really simple, obviously, example because this is a big chunk. And I understand that in the time we have today, we can't really talk about going into building a great database, but I would make it a note, and please remember to reach out to a consultant. I can talk to you afterwards about some resources to do that. TechSoup Canada is a great resource for tech information where I used to work. So, thanks for asking me. People like to be asked their opinion. When you call somebody and you talk to them for 5 minutes, if you do that every day, even if you can't do it every day, if you say, I'm going to call 3 people this week, and you manage to call those 3 people, it's amazing how you feel after you get off the phone with those people when they say thank you because you listened to me. So, number 3, discover and communicate your stickiness. So stickiness is that undefined thing that gets people to come back to us, keeps the eyeballs on the website. So define what the stickiness is for your organization. Why would I choose you over another organization that's similar to volunteer with or to donate to? Why? And if you can't answer that, there's still some work to be done. So that's what I'm saying is really try to understand what it is that gets people to stick to your organization and do more of that. So what's unique about your org or your brand? So I'm not going to really go into branding, but I'm kind of leaning towards trying to get you to think about stickiness as your brand. What does your organization represent in the minds of the people that you're in contact with? Your brand is simply what people would think of you if they said the name of your organization. You don't own your brand. Your brand is something that's alive and breathing. So if you walk onto the street and you say, have you ever heard of xyz.org? And whatever comes to mind, that's your brand. And then there's obviously going to be multiple opinions, and then there's a sum of all that, which you can define for doing research. But we can talk more about that later in the Q&A if you'd like. So if you want to know what people think about you and why you're sticky and why they keep coming back to you, ask them. Ask them. It's so easy to do a survey online now. Have you heard of SurveyMonkey? Okay, almost everybody's heard of SurveyMonkey. It's so easy. Do a survey every month. Commit to doing a 10-question survey. It's free. It's free information, and it's a free way for you to get access to the people who are participating in your programs, who are coming to your events, who are signing up to volunteer. We can talk about target markets later and who the different groups are you're trying to reach. So you've got to be very good to them. You can't forget them. You have to say thank you, and you have to ask for help. But it's really important to try to start identifying who some of these people are. So who's talking about you? Can some of you think of people that talk about your organization a lot, and maybe not in a critical way, perhaps in a supportive way, who you're underutilizing? Can anybody think of just somebody that comes to mind? Volunteers? No? Not a single person? Okay, one at least. Okay. So one way to define this is look in your inbox. Who's emailing you? And it might not be you that you ask, because you might be a director and you might get very specific emails from specific people. But somebody in the organization is getting frontline emails. It might be info at, but somebody's getting them. And if you look at those emails, you can tell who your ambassadors are, because you can see, if you start tracking over time, you'll start seeing where these things are coming from when people ask, not necessarily info at, because those are about website. What I'm saying is frontline emails, programmatic emails. So start trying to define, and this is where tracking comes in, and this is what for-profit marketers do. For-profit marketers will start a spreadsheet as quick as you can blink. They will. They'll start a spreadsheet to track everything, and they'll start seeing patterns. A good marketer sees patterns, not in numbers, but also in how we communicate with each other. So they'll start a spreadsheet and start tracking, okay, I'm seeing 3 emails from the same person. I'm going to start tracking this. So start being a tracker. A good marketer is a tracker. So who's emailing you? Who's attending the events? Who's donating every year? I mean, some of these are fairly obvious. Who are your top referrers? And this goes back to what you're talking about, the eyeballs. So who's linking to you? This goes back to the Google the Google Analytics that are really easy to sign up for, and you can track them over time. You can see who's referring to you. So if you have three websites that are referring to you, call those people up and say, thank you. We want to make you one of our ambassadors, right? Now, you have to define what that means, I know. But it will really take you much farther to start thinking about who's talking about you than to not. That's what I can leave you with for this slide. So make promises and keep them. So who works for an organization that has a promise statement to your members or volunteers? Similar to maybe how the TTC would have a promise for the riders or customers. Okay? I mean, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be called that, but it can take a lot of different forms. But some kind of promise to say, we're going to meet you here, and this is what you can expect for us. This is where we show up, and this is where we show up every day. So develop a commitment statement, and then celebrate achievements. Some of these are really cheesy, but do we do them? Like, how hard is it to say, you're the best staff person of this week because, not because we chose you because of popularity, but because you really stepped out of something that you weren't required to do, and you showed that you're somebody who is to be celebrated. And reward that by giving extra time off. I know that we can't really in our sector pay people more. It's very difficult. But we can award with extra time off. I've worked for several organizations that did this, and it was fairly successful. And then happy hour. So I've worked for a couple organizations. Now, they're Americans, so they drink a lot there. But I put happy hour in quotes because happy hour can be a non-alcoholic happy hour. It doesn't have to. It really doesn't have to include beverages. But it's Friday at 4 rather than everybody packing up early. They look forward to something. Appalachian Mountain Club is a very large northeastern in the United States hiking organization, similar to Sierra Club. And we had weekly parties. And I look forward to those. I didn't want to leave work early. I wanted to stay, and even just to check in with a few minutes, because we were on multiple floors, and there were 100 people, and it was a great way to get to know each other. So it feels great to be appreciated.